لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين ولا عدوان إلا على الظالمين. اللهم لك الحمد يا ربنا، أنت أحق أن تحمد، ولك الشكر، أنت أحق أن تشكر، وأنت على كل شيء قدير، لك العتبى حتى ترضى، ولا حول ولا قوة لنا إلا بك. اللهم إنا نحمدك حمدا كثيرا طيبا طاهرا دائما مباركا فيه، ملء السماوات وملء الأرض وملء ما بينهما وملء ما شئت يا ربنا من شيء بعد. أنت أهل الثناء والمجد، أحق ما قال العبد وكلنا لك عبد. اللهم لا مانع لما أعطيت ولا معطي لما منعت ولا ينفع ذا الجد منك الجد. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبد الله ورسوله وصفيه من خلقه وحبيبه، بلغ الرسالة وأدى الأمانة ونصح الأمة وكشف الغمة، وجاهد في الله حق الجهاد حتى أتاه اليقين. اللهم صل وسلم وزد وبارك على الحبيب المصطفى محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه وأتباعه ومن اهتدى بهديه وعمل بسنته إلى يوم الدين، وارض عنا معهم بفضلك وكرمك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم آمين. I praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I ascribe every power and attribute every beauty to the Creator. I thank Allah for the blessings that He has bestowed upon me and my family. And I express my gratitude to Allah in words and action. I say Alhamdulillah, 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 for blessings I know and blessings I know not. I bear witness that there is no deity worthy of worship and devotion except Allah. And I bear witness that Muhammad is Allah's final prophet and messenger, the bearer of glad tidings, the torch of light, the role model to be followed, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. May the peace and the blessings of Allah be upon him and his family and his companions, followers and students, and every man or woman that walks in their footsteps or adheres to their path until the day of judgment. And I ask Allah to make each and every one of us among them. Allahumma ameen. My dear brothers and sisters, I greet you with a greeting of Islam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I'm sure that many of you have been following the news. Yet again, evil strikes, and we've followed the terrorist attacks in Jakarta, and before that it was Istanbul. And it really breaks the heart to think of the state that the Ummah has reached when we watch the news and only wait a couple of days for something else to happen. And we know it's going to happen. It's just a matter of time. It used to be a matter of months, and then it became a matter of years. Now, literally, it's just a matter of days. We're just waiting for the next one to happen. And it also breaks my heart because the thought that there are people who can be transformed so completely and severely to become agents of evil that literally just go into civilian neighborhoods in Muslim countries to snatch the life out of innocent people, for me just tells me that there's something that is so hugely wrong about the discourse that is being exchanged in the Ummah. And I know that some of you might think that extremism is still a far out phenomenon. It has nothing to do with us. It has nothing to do with my family. It has nothing to do with our private circles, us right here, the Muslim community in America. But I'm telling you, extremism is at the doorstep of each and every one of us. And yes, it is manifested in parts of the world when people point their guns at others or plant bombs and take innocent lives. But the extremism that is manifested in violence has its roots in extremism that is manifested in speech, in extremism that is manifested in behavior, in extremism that is manifested in how we treat each other. The fact that some people cross over the line between nonviolent and violent behavior doesn't mean that that is all what extremism is about. For me, it's an indication of a wider problem of radical and extreme behavior in the mainstream discourse about Islam everywhere. When we demonize the other when we put people down, when we insult them because they don't match our expectations of what is a good Muslim, when we use the religion, I cannot tell you how often husband and wife, they have a divorce and they use the deen to destroy their own relationship. The self-righteousness that is involved in the process. You continue to demonize other people, you continue to insult other people, you continue to put them down, to use words as spears to tear through their flesh. You know, trust me, one day, committing an act of violence against another Muslim becomes only normal. Because you've gotten so used to the idea that it's okay to hurt other people by every possible mean, and violence is just the one last thing that is still left. And people can cross that line. You want extremism to go away and to vaporize and disappear. A lot of work needs to be conducted in the way we treat each other at the family level, at the social level, the way you treat your own children, the way you treat your own spouse, the way we treat each other at the masajid, the type of conversations we have, the type of people we allow or disallow into our circles. It is all unfortunately founded on really extreme behavior, an extreme understanding of what Islam is. When we continue to refer to non-Muslims as kuffar, not as people who can potentially become Muslim, not as people who can potentially become our friends, but we continue to label them as kuffar, I promise you, it is a matter of time for one person under the right circumstances, under the right level of pressure, to snap and to cross the line between non-violent and violent behavior. Because I've already demonized the other, that's it. They're like animals to me. I give myself the right to hurt them and to attack them and to curse them and to say things about them. Well, maybe one day I will also give myself the right to take his life. That is how it starts. But this whole conversation is very grim, understandably. And it's depressing. And it hurts us as Muslims. And we continue to live in a state of anxiety about it. I am telling you right now, throughout our history, I cannot think of a worse or a more dangerous existential crisis that the Muslim Ummah had faced. Throughout our history. Yes, we've always had enemies, for sure. But at least in the ancient times, we were strong enough to stand up against our enemies. But today, as the Prophet said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we are غُثَاء كَغُثَاءِ السَّيْلِ. You know when there is a flood, and the flood carries debris with it wherever it goes? Have you seen a flash flood before? And the debris is just swimming on the surface of the water. The Prophet ﷺ describes the state of the Ummah today as the debris that is floating on the surface of flood. كَغُثَاءِ السَّيْلِ. Numbers, large numbers. The value is very little. The value of the numbers are very little. And that continues to cause a state of anxiety, especially among Muslim youth. And I say this because I'm working on this on a regular basis. And I feel that it is necessary for us to address the mental health implications, the mental health impact of the crises that are happening around the world. Young Muslim brothers and sisters who feel that they have an identity crisis as a result of people from their own faith committing the most heinous and murderous acts that we would be repulsed if we watched in movies. Acts that you and I would be repulsed if we watched them in movies. It would be repulsive and disgusting. But they're happening by people who claim to follow our own faith and our own religion, and that is disturbing. And I wanted to share with you how the Prophet ﷺ in these difficult times dealt with very tough situations. How to handle a crisis. I mean, this is a crisis. It's a crisis of faith for some. It's a crisis of identity for some. But sometimes we're also subjected to other forms of crises. I mean, you lose a job, that is a crisis. You lose a business, that is a crisis. Your relationship crumbles and falls apart, and you have a divorce, that is a crisis. One of your children strays from the path and commits God knows what types of sins and brings shame and disgrace upon you and the family. And you feel like on the day of judgment at the gates of Jannah, you will look for your child, your flesh and blood, and you won't be able to see them because they are suffering in hell. Isn't that a thought that sometimes visits the minds of fathers and mothers in our community? It's a crisis. Okay? Now, how did the Prophet ﷺ handle crises? And I think that I will dedicate this khutbah to briefly, very briefly, share with you some prophetic guidance on how to handle a crisis. Okay? And that is inspired by a story that every single one of you probably heard before. It's the Prophet's encounter in At-Taif. We know the story very well. The Prophet ﷺ goes to the city of At-Taif, spends 10 days over there in order to seek refuge for Islam and Muslims, having tried for about 10 years in Mecca. Mecca is a sterile ground, it's infertile, it is not providing him with what he needs. The da'wah is not growing. 50, 60 people probably at this point have accepted Islam after 10 years of hard work. And the Prophet ﷺ is a pragmatic person, and he decided that I need to go somewhere else to see if I can plant my seed in another place that would yield better results than the city of Mecca. So he goes to At-Taif. He spends 10 days. He was mocked, he was attacked, he was cursed, he was made fun of, they threw rocks at him, they hurt him and bled him. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Now, who accompanied the Prophet ﷺ on that trip? Zayd, his loyal, loving servant, radiallahu anhu arda. And when the Prophet ﷺ had had enough, he left the city of At-Taif. And he turned his face to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he offered this heart-wrenching dua, if you remember, right? And in his dua, he speaks to Allah, he says, Lord, if you're not angry with me, then there is nothing for me to worry about. But I feel the pain, I feel abandonment, I feel that I'm fighting this battle alone, and I need your help. Show me the way, give me guidance. Assure me that you're standing by my side. Assure me that I have not committed any sins that would make me deserving of your wrath. Lord, إِن لَمْ يَكُنْ بِكَ غَضَبٌ عَلَيَّ فَلَا أُبَالِي وَلَكِنَّ عَافِيَتَكَ هِيَ أَوْسَعُ لِي. That's what he said to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah wanted to give him a beautiful sign at the very end. So Addas, this young person from Ta'if, followed him and he offered him, it felt bad for him. The Arabs had still a sense of hospitality to honor your guests. They did not show any hospitality to the Prophet ﷺ. So Addas brought some grapes and offered the Prophet ﷺ some grapes. And the Prophet, before he ate, he said, Bismillah. So Addas said, what did you say? I said, Bismillah. Oh, people from around here don't use such language. How did you learn this? Well, I'm a prophet. Oh, you're a prophet. Okay. So the Prophet asked him, and where are you from? He says, I'm from Nainawa, that city in Iraq. So he said, well, that is the city of Prophet Yunus, my brother. You know about Yunus? Yes. He's a prophet and I'm a prophet. And Addas started frantically asking him questions about God and faith and right and wrong and what is righteous and what is evil. And the Prophet answered his questions, and Addas jumped on the Prophet ﷺ and kissed his hands. And he admitted right then and there, you must be a messenger. Because what you told me is not something that people can just figure out on their own. Only one person accepted Islam in that very difficult trip. But the part of Ta'if that we don't talk about is the Prophet's journey back to the city of Mecca. And on the way back to Mecca, he has to ask himself, I don't know if, those of you who've been to Umrah, you probably know the distance between Ta'if and Mecca. It's very long. It'll take like at least a day and a half or 2 days, walking distance. And the Prophet ﷺ and Zayd had plenty of time to think and rethink. Okay, so what brought me here in the first place? Maybe I should have chosen a better city. Maybe I should have spoken to the leaders before I even get there. He started making a self-assessment on whether or not, that choice was the right choice. But he had to face the very difficult reality that now he needs to go back to his home in Mecca. That was not going to be an easy task. Why? Because the Meccans know Muhammad left and he wants to seek a home in Ta'if. Thank God, we don't want him to come back. Now, if he all of a sudden showed up at the doors of Mecca, what would they do? We don't know. Maybe they could have killed him. Maybe they could have attacked him. So Muhammad ﷺ, again, that was perhaps the lowest point in the Prophet's life. It's a very difficult moment for him. Feeling that he receives revelation from Allah, he has been tasked to serve and help and honor and spread the deen, and he's being treated this way. The host city rejected him, and his home city, he's not even sure if he can have a safe passage. So what does he do? He resorts to an ancient Arab tradition. It is called Haqqul Jiwar. When you seek asylum or seek refuge with a leader, a powerful leader, that leader will have to offer you that protection, and then you enter the city under his protection. He sent a messenger to Suhail ibn Amr, one of the leaders of Mecca. He said, no, I'm sorry, I can't. He sent a messenger to another leader. He said, I'm sorry, I can't do that. It'll just bring heat upon me. I don't want to do it. And then he sent a messenger to Al-Mut'im ibn Adi, one of the leaders of what was known to be a kind-hearted man. He was not a Muslim, but he was a kind-hearted man. So he sent a messenger to Al-Mut'im ibn Adi, would you offer me Haqqul Jiwar? Would you offer me asylum? And he said, Ya Muhammad, you are under my protection. And the Prophet ﷺ entered the city of Mecca in the darkness of the night, surrounded by two single files of the members of the Adi family. By the way, that's the family of Umar ibn Khattab. Two single files of the members of the Adi family, geared with, wearing their war gear, drawing their swords to honor the rite of passage, to honor the protection that their family has given the Prophet ﷺ. Imagine that. Now he's being protected, but I'm sure in his heart he feels like, seriously, I have to enter my own city under the protection of those non-Muslims. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And he asked them, would you please take me all the way to the Kaaba? And the Prophet goes to the Kaaba. And he prays under the protection of the non-Muslims. He prays, alayhi salatu wasalam. And on his way back to his house, under the protection of the Adi family, he held Zayd's hand. And he told him, Ya Zayd, Wallahi inna Allah azza wa jalla laja'irun lima tara farajan wa makhraja. I swear, see all the trials and tribulations around us, Zayd? See everything that happened to us? I promise you that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will show us a way out of this. وَإِنَّ اللَّهَ عَزَّ وَجَلَّ لَمُظْهِرُ دِينَهُ وَنَاصِرُ نَبِيَّهُ. Allah will give victory to His deen and triumph to His Prophet. Adi was like, his servant, Zayd, was like, Ya Rasulullah, we enter the city under the protection, technically, of our enemy. And we have been rejected and attacked in Ta'if, and you're still maintaining your positive attitude that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give victory to His deen. He says, yes, and remember my words. And what does the Prophet do, alayhi salatu wasalam? He goes through a prophet of assessment. Okay, now I need to expand my search. Ta'if, focusing on just one city is not prudent. I need to expand my search. So what does he do, alayhi salatu wasalam? He monitors the delegations of Hajj that come to Mecca for the next 2 years. And he speaks to every delegation about Islam until about 1.5 years later. He met the delegation of Yathrib. And that was called in history Bay'atul Aqaba al-Ula, the 6 men that literally were the last delegation to leave in the season of Hajj. And he met them perchance, alayhi salatu wasalam. And he spoke to them about Islam, and they gave their pledges of allegiance to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam right then and there. And that became the prelude of the great journey of Hijrah. And only 1 year after, Bay'at al-Aqaba al-Thaniya, the second pledge of allegiance, more than 70 people gave their pledges to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and then he ended up moving to Medina and establishing the civilization of Islam as you and I know it today. Only 2 years after the lowest point, the Prophet ﷺ established the greatest civilization that this earth had ever seen. Only 2 years. How did he do it? And that's the subject of this khutbah. And I talk about mental health challenges in times of anxiety and times of crises, right? Western psychology tries to teach us a thing or two about how to manage a crisis, right? So they talk about the stage of denial. Oh, this is not happening to me. And then they talk about the stage of anger, right? Why is this happening to me? Why me of all people? And then they talk about the stage of bargaining. You try to find a way out of it. Try to find a solution. Try to jiggle your way off the hook. And then they talk about the stage of depression. Oh my God, my life is over. And then the fifth stage is what? Acceptance. That's it. That's my fate. I have to live with it. That's it. Khalas. Right? That's established science, right? In Western psychology. Now let us cross-examine the 5 steps of Western psychology with the 5 steps of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. What did he do? Okay, think about it. Number 1, he grieved. He cried. He poured his heart out. He accepted his humanity. He accepted that he's a human being. And it's okay to cry. It's okay to shed the tears. It's okay to cleanse your heart. That's fine. But it is not okay to let your grief extinguish your spirit and break you. Accept your humanity. If you're upset, be anxious, let it all out, cry, that's fine. The Prophet ﷺ grieved. He grieved. That's the first step. Let that tension out. Get it out of your system. Okay? Number 2, don't make the problem your focus. What Western psychology does, it forces you to keep revisiting the same issue that bothers you. But what the Prophet does ﷺ is that he avoids thinking about the issue itself, and he looks before the causes that brought him here. Why do I get here in the first place? Maybe I need to do more research. Maybe I needed to reach out to the Ta'if leaders before even coming. Maybe I need to select another city. Maybe that was not the wisest thing to do. So you have to assess the causes that brought you here. And then, again, bypass the problem, jump over it, and then look at the future. What do I learn from here? And where do I go from here? Because you know what? You have to go somewhere. You can't just be standing still. You need to go somewhere. Your life needs to go on. Right? And that's when he came up with the plan of meeting with the delegations of Hajj and stuff like that. Again, learn and plan for the future. Number 4, the Prophet ﷺ, that's his 4th step. After you've exhausted all the means, delegate your affairs to Allah Azza wa Jal. Put it in the hands of Allah. I've tried everything. And I've knocked on every door. And I've exhausted every means at my disposal. Now it is time for my heart to relax and to say, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will take care of the rest. Number 5, and it's just as important, brothers and sisters, always, always, always maintain your positive attitude. Always maintain your positive attitude. The minute you get negative about things, well, I promise you it'll become worse. Always maintain your positive attitude. Inshallah, the cup is half full. Inshallah, things will get better. That's what you have to keep repeating to yourself. Inshallah, things will get better. The Prophet says, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, al-khayru fiyya wa fi ummati ila yawm al-qiyamah. Goodness will always be in this ummah until the day of judgment. Yes, we see evil, we see bad things, but the good will continue to exist in the ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam until the day of judgment, no matter what. The cup is always half full, not half empty. Maintain your positive attitude and keep your head high. Let me tell you something that you may or may not know. Historians talk about 300 years of Islamic history that is called the Ismaili heresy. What is the Ismaili heresy? The Ismaili heresy is when the Ismailis, and that is the offshoot of Shia Islam, you know, the Agha Khanis, I think they call them today. They were the most powerful Muslim group on earth for 300 years. Did you know that? They controlled vast swaths of territory in the Muslim world. 70 or 80% of the Muslim world was under Ismaili control. It reached a point, that's why they call it a heresy. It reached a point where an offshoot of the Ismailis in present-day Bahrain, they went all the way to Mecca. They took the black stone from the Kaaba and they built a shrine in Bahrain, and they wanted people to perform Hajj over there. For 23 years, Muslims did not perform Hajj because Al-Hajar al-Aswad was not there. The black stone was not at the Kaaba. People stopped going to Hajj for 23 years. Until the leader of the Fatimids, Al-Fatimiyin in Egypt, sent a request and told them, guys, it's time to stop, please. Sent the black stone back to the Kaaba so that Muslims can resume the ritual. And on the way back to the Kaaba, the black stone fell from the person that was carrying it, and it broke into 6 pieces. And they had to create a cast and put the 6 pieces. So when you go to Hajj today, what you actually see is not the full black stone, it's the broken 6 pieces of the black stone. Did Islam stop to grow? Did the Ummah get paralyzed? We're still here, and the deen is still here. And we have one hearts and minds. And we've reached the far corners of the earth despite that bump. For 300 years. They go to Egypt and they establish the entire country, the entire dynasty of the Fatimids was established on heretical thought. Al-Azhar, the institution that is today the crown jewel of Sunni Islam, was established to perpetuate heresy. Right? SubhanAllah. You don't know how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala works. But sometimes He works in the most amazing ways. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala works. So if you ask me today, what is going to happen to Palestine? What is going to happen to Syria? What is going to happen to this country and that country, Afghanistan and Pakistan and Iraq and Yemen? Oh my God, the Ummah is falling apart. It used to be a lot worse, brothers and sisters. It used to be a lot worse. How long has it been, Palestine under occupation? 60, 70 years? What is 70 years compared to the history of humanity? What does it count for? A second? 2 seconds? Seriously. Iraq has been struggling for how long? 10, 15 years? Syria, it has only been 3 years. Yes, there is a sheer price in human life that is being paid. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala promised to maintain the integrity of Islam, to maintain the integrity of the Ummah, and to maintain the instructive nature of Islamic civilization itself. We will continue to serve and inspire and grow. We will continue to open hearts and minds no matter what. I promise you. Inshallah ta'ala. Maybe my children or my grandchildren, they will be standing on a pulpit like this, holding the microphone, giving the khutbah, and talking about all our suffering today as a thing of history, as a thing of the past that doesn't exist anymore. Muslims are struggling, and then we're so scared about certain politicians becoming president, right? We're very worried about that. What if he becomes president? What is going to happen? This can potentially inspire one of the greatest movements of correction in American history, by which the entire country will rally against extreme, radical conservative thought. It could be the end of conservative thought in America as it is. You never know. That's my point. You keep your head up and you keep your positive attitude, good things inshallah ta'ala will happen. And if you allow negativity to control your heart, God knows what could happen. I ask Allah to accept our good deeds, to forgive us our sins, and to establish us with firmness on His path. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bring us closer to each other as brothers and sisters, and to protect our hearts from negativity and despair. Brothers and sisters, raise your hands and speak to Allah from the heart. ادعوا الله وأنتم موقنون بالإجابة. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعين به ونستهديه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فهو المهتد ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا وأصلي وأسلم على المبعوث رحمة للعالمين وقائد الغر الميامين محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم الصادق الوعد الأمين. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك عليه وعلى أصحابه وأتباعه ومن اهتدى بهديه وعمل بسنته إلى يوم الدين وعنا معهم بفضلك وكرمك أرحم الراحمين اللهم آمين. My dear brothers and sisters, I shared with you briefly today the 5 steps that the Prophet ﷺ used in order to manage a crisis or a state of anxiety. And I said that the Prophet ﷺ allowed himself to grieve within the boundaries of what is halal. The Prophet ﷺ looked at the causes of the crisis. The Prophet ﷺ drafted a plan on how to proceed in the aftermath. The Prophet ﷺ delegated his matters to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and finally he maintained his positive attitude. The most precious stones that are so expensive are hiding in the dark layers of the earth. You have to go through dirt in order to extract them. Beautiful, strong plants, they have to crack their way through the earth itself, dirt and dust, in order to become a beautiful fruit that you can enjoy. It has to come from dirt. There's nothing good in this world that does not go through that process, brothers and sisters. You can only appreciate light when you haven't been exposed to darkness. That's how our world is. I don't know if you've ever heard of the rule of 3. The rule of 3 says that you can survive for 3 minutes without oxygen. Some people can do more, but the average humanity can survive for 3 minutes. I mean, that's a lot of time without oxygen. You can survive for 3 hours in extremely cold conditions, sub-zero conditions, without shelter, after which you probably freeze to death. You can survive for 3 days without a sip of water. And you can survive for 3 weeks without food. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made you a lot stronger than you think. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made you a lot stronger. If you see how a baby is born and delivered. Back in med school, we used to pull the baby from its head out of its mother's womb. If you hold a baby today from its head like this, it'd be considered child abuse. Pediatricians, when the baby is delivered, they hold the baby from its foot like this, dangling in the air, to make sure they start breathing. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made you a lot stronger than you think. You're a lot more resilient and tenacious than you think. Don't ever let shaitan convince you that you will break under the weight of pressure and calamity and trials. Don't ever let those thoughts get in your head. Always say to shaitan, I'm stronger. I will prevail. Things will get better, inshallah. A'udhu billahi minash shaitan rajim. Every time shaitan comes to you and makes things a lot darker than they are and make you look at things through the eye of the needle, just take a step back and you realize that the picture is much bigger. And that the blessings are much bigger. And then the beauty is much more noticeable. And that haqq is still stronger than batil, no matter what. We're still talking about it. And as long as you and I are still talking about haqq, inshallah haqq will stay alive. No matter what. Keep your heads up, brothers and sisters, and maintain your positive attitudes. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give strength to each and every one of us to handle the challenges and the difficulties that are born in our existence in this day and age. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to unite our community, to help us absorb our differences and disagreements, to have a unified vision, a unified direction. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us inspire others with our words and action. I ask Allah on this day to make us among those who have earned His pleasure and content in the life of this world, and those who have earned His Jannah on the Day of Judgment. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as He gathered us here in this shape and form, to gather all of us in His Jannah. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen.